All right. Welcome, everybody, to another deep dive. Today, we are going
Guatemala.
to Guatemala, yes. We are headed south.
Way south.
Way south.
Mm-hmm.
And we are going to be talking about a lot more than just...
More than just Mayan ruins.
Yeah, Mayan ruins. And for this one, we have a really cool article called Guatemala, 10 Fascinating Facts About a Land of Wonder. And it is just that.
Yeah.
10 fascinating facts about Guatemala. We're going to go through all of them. And really, hopefully by the end of this, you will have a much broader understanding.
A much more nuanced view.
Yes, a much more nuanced view of Guatemala.
Than just the kind of common conception.
Exactly.
Which is, like you said, Mayan ruins.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know, I've been lucky enough to go to Guatemala a couple of times, and I would say that every time that I've gone, I've learned something new.
Absolutely.
And there's so much to learn, and it's just a really, really beautiful country. So I think the first one that we're going to talk about is the pyramid.
Oh yeah.
La Danta.
La Danta.
And
this is a great one, right? Because it kind of turns
yeah,
what we think we know about pyramids on its head.
yeah.
Right?
Everyone thinks,
Biggest pyramid.
Egypt, Giza, right?
Yeah.
But it's not.
Yeah, the biggest pyramid by volume
By volume.
is actually in Guatemala.
In Guatemala. Now, volume is an interesting distinction, right? It's not about height.
Right.
It's not about, how tall the pyramid is.
Right.
It's about the sheer amount of material used to create this thing.
Yeah.
And when you start thinking about it that way, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's absolutely gigantic.
It is.
And so I think this is one of those facts that people are always really surprised by.
Absolutely.
Because, again, we have this image in our minds of the Egyptian pyramids being the biggest and the greatest, but there you go. Guatemala's got them beat.
They do. And I think it's a testament to, again, that idea of nuance, right?
Right.
That there's so much more to Guatemala than what we typically think. Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to something that I think everyone can appreciate, and that is
Chocolate.
chocolate. Now, this was something that was really, really important to the Maya.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, cacao beans
Yeah.
were a huge part of Mayan culture.
Yes. So, I mean, they drank it, they used it in ceremony,
As currency?
they used it as currency. Can you imagine?
I mean, how cool would that be?
Paying for your groceries with cacao beans?
Right. That'll be 3 cacao beans, please.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah. I mean, it really shows you how valuable it was to them.
Right, and it's interesting because today, Guatemala is still a major producer of coffee and cacao.
Absolutely. And some of the highest quality in the world, I might add.
So, next time you're enjoying a cup of coffee or a bar of chocolate, there's a good chance that some of those beans came from Guatemala.
Yeah, you think about that global trade, those connections
Yeah.
that we have through these everyday things that we enjoy.
Yeah. So, think about that next time you have your morning coffee.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's move on to another really fascinating fact, and this one I think is just kind of cool. Have you ever heard of a volcano with blue lava?
Blue lava. No, I've heard of red lava.
Red lava, yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty common.
Yeah, orange lava.
Orange lava, yeah. But blue lava, this is something special. So in Guatemala, there's a volcano called Pacaya.
Pacaya.
And due to the specific gases that it releases during eruptions,
It glows blue.
it glows blue.
This is like National Geographic stuff.
Yeah, this is
incredible.
This is incredible, and it's really rare.
Extremely rare. I mean, the conditions have to be just right
Yeah,
for this to happen.
and it's one of those things that you see pictures of it and you're like, is that real?
Yeah, it looks like something out of a movie.
Yeah, but it is real,
It is.
and it's just one of those things that Guatemala has to offer that is just so unique.
It's things like this that make you realize how diverse and amazing our planet is.
Exactly. All right, well, let's move on to something a little bit different. You know how some countries have animals that are very symbolic?
Oh, yeah.
Like, think about the bald eagle in the U.S.
Absolutely.
Well, Guatemala has
Quetzal.
the Quetzal.
It's a beautiful bird.
Yeah, it's a beautiful bird. It's got these
Bright green feathers, a red breast.
and the long flowing tail.
Yeah. Very striking.
Yeah, and for the Maya, it was considered sacred,
Absolutely.
and it symbolizes freedom.
Freedom. And it was said that if you captured a Quetzal, it would die of sadness.
Yeah,
So they were never kept in cages.
right. And so it's fitting that Guatemala named its currency after the Quetzal.
Absolutely. It's a symbol of their national identity.
Yeah. So, it's more than just a pretty bird.
Huh.
It's a symbol of their culture and their history.
And, it speaks to that idea of the connection between people and nature.
Exactly. All right, well, let's move on to something a little bit more festive. During Holy Week, or Semana Santa, as it's called in Guatemala,
Semana Santa.
and Tikal, which is one of the old colonial cities in Guatemala.
Beautiful city.
Yeah, they do something really unique.
They create these carpets out of sawdust, flowers, and fruit.
Yeah, and they line the streets with these carpets.
And then the processions walk over them.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are elaborate carpets.
Oh, yeah. They're really works of art.
And then they just get walked on.
It's a symbol of sacrifice and renewal,
Right.
which are core themes of Holy Week.
And it's really interesting because you put all this work into creating these beautiful carpets, and then
They're gone.
they're gone.
Just like that.
All right, well, let's move on to something a little bit mysterious. Have you ever heard of Lake Atitlan?
Oh, yeah. Beautiful lake.
Yeah, it's surrounded by volcanoes.
It's stunning.
But there's something strange happening to Lake Atitlan. Its water levels are dropping.
Dramatically.
Yeah. And scientists believe that it's due to underground fissures, but they don't really know.
They don't fully understand it. It's
Yeah.
a bit of a mystery.
Yeah. So, you have this beautiful lake and it's slowly disappearing.
Yeah. It's a little bit eerie, actually.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to something that might be a little bit closer to home for some people. Do you like instant coffee?
I do, actually.
You do. Well, you might be surprised to know that Guatemala played a big role in developing instant coffee.
Really?
Yeah. Back in the early 1900s.
Wow.
Guatemala was instrumental in figuring out how to make instant coffee.
That's fascinating. I had no idea.
Yeah, and today, Guatemala is still one of the top producers of coffee in the world.
So, that cup of instant coffee that you're enjoying
Yeah.
could very well have some Guatemalan roots.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on to a place that is a little bit overwhelming, but in a good way. Have you ever heard of Chichicastenango Market?
Chichicastenango, is that the one that's like the biggest market in Central America?
Yeah, it's often called Chichi for short.
Chichi.
And it is the largest open-air market in Central America.
Wow.
And you can find just about anything there.
I've seen pictures. It's like a sea of color.
Yeah, they've got textiles, they've got masks, they've got crafts,
Food.
yeah. I mean, you name it, they probably have it at Chichi.
Wow.
And it's really a sight to see.
Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to something that is really important to Guatemala, and that is its linguistic diversity.
Oh yeah, Guatemala has a rich linguistic tapestry.
Yeah. So while Spanish is the official language,
There are over 20 indigenous languages spoken.
yeah, that's amazing.
It is. And these languages represent different cultures, different histories, different ways of seeing the world.
And it's really important to preserve these languages because they're part of Guatemala's heritage.
Absolutely. Each language is a treasure trove of knowledge and culture.
Yeah. All right, well, let's finish up with something that is just really fun and visually spectacular, and that is giant kites.
Giant kites. How giant are we talking?
Well, some of them are over 10 meters in diameter.
10 meters. That's huge.
Yeah, and they're flown on the Day of the Dead.
Dia de Dead, Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful tradition.
Yeah, and the kites are believed to create a bridge between the living and the dead.
It's a way to honor their ancestors.
Yeah, and it's just a really amazing thing to see.
I can imagine it must be quite a spectacle.
So there you have it. Guatemala is a country with so much to offer. It's got ancient pyramids, blue lava, giant kites, and so much more.
Yeah, it's a land of wonder, just like the article said.
Exactly. And we've only just scratched the surface.
There's so much more to discover.
Yeah. So what surprised you most about Guatemala? What are you curious about?
What would you like to learn more